Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for A Crime Unveiled with Courtney Bennett. Tonight, we're actually going to be talking about a Michigan Supreme Court decision. The decision came down on April 1st, and what the justices in a 5-2 opinion decided. They said that 19 and 20-year-olds who were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, now they're going to have all of their cases reheard. So they are going to face another sentencing possibility in the courts throughout the state of Michigan. And this comes after a 2012 Supreme Court decision. It's Miller v. Alabama, where they said that juveniles should not face a life sentence without the possibility of parole unless the circumstances, called for that. So a judge is required for anyone under the age of 17 to hold what's called a Miller hearing. So they determine several factors and they go through the person's age, things like that. If it is upheld, then they can face that life sentence without the possibility of parole. Here in the state of Michigan, the Miller hearing was held for the Oxford High School shooter. He had that Miller hearing back in the summer of 2023. And we heard from, the judge, we heard several people that took the stand on why he should get that life sentence without the possibility of parole. After the Judge Kwame Rowe, weighed in all of the factors through the Miller hearing, that ended up being determined that he would face that life sentence. So now we're moving on to that 19 and 20-year-old age group. Here in the state of Michigan, there are 579 offenders who are currently in the Michigan Department of Corrections who will face a resentencing. I did an interview yesterday with Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel and asked her about this decision that was made by the Michigan Supreme Court. Here's what she had to say. Michigan Supreme Court made a decision on lifers when it comes to 19 and 20-year-olds and said that they can no longer be charged with a life sentence without the possibility of parole. How is this impacting people in our state and prosecutors in our state?
Right. Well, what the court said is that they can't be sentenced to life without parole without having a special hearing in order to consider whether they should be sentenced to a term of years or life without parole. And I know that might sound good to a lot of people, like, oh yes, they should have that hearing if they never had one before. But, we have some 580 people right now that are serving those sentences in the Michigan Department of Corrections. And I think it's important for people to understand how much time, energy, money, resources goes in to having to dig up files from 30, 40, even 50 years ago. And even worse, it re-traumatizes the victims and their family members. So you now have people who thought, okay, that's over and done with. We had that trial. We did that 20 years ago. And now all of a sudden you're going to have to locate those people and ask them to come back in for these court proceedings. So I think we should be mindful of the way that this affects crime victims and their families. And also the way that it's going to affect prosecutors' offices, the courts, and also, public defenders. All of these parties are going to have to come back again and essentially retry those 580 cases by having these hearings. So it's going to be no easy task, and we're doing it at a time right now where prosecutors' offices are significantly understaffed and they don't have enough money. So it's hard for them to keep up even with the current cases they have, let alone to have to go and revisit those cases from many, many years ago. And again, if you're serving a life sentence, it's because you were convicted of a homicide. So these were really serious crimes.
And she mentioned that the prosecutor's offices will have to go through all of these cases. Again, it's 579 within the Michigan Department of Corrections. Of those 19 and 20-year-olds who were 19 and 20 at the time of the crime, I asked the Michigan Department of Corrections to provide me a little insight on what these numbers look like and what the breakdown is county by county. They were able to send that over to me today. And according to what they were able to pull, according to their data, Genesee County has 44 cases that will have to, have this hearing, have to be resentenced. Wayne County has the most. They're at 283 cases. Again, this is from the Michigan Department of Corrections. They were able to send over that data. Yesterday, I talked to Prosecutor David Layton about this, and here's what he had to say.
I can tell you one thing. I don't have them. I don't have enough assistant prosecutors. I don't have enough crime victim advocates. I don't have enough paralegals. I don't have enough support staff for the number of cases that are going to be in the system. And then the Supreme Court says we have to do it within a fixed period of time. It's going to be an impossible hill to climb, and it's going to re-traumatize dozens, if not hundreds of people in Genesee County and beyond.
And again, Genesee County will have those 44 cases. That's the latest data from the Michigan Department of Corrections. And Wayne County with the most, and they're at 283. They also say that Bay County, they have 3 of those cases. Saginaw County, these are just the local ones here, they have 24 cases. Oakland County is at 60 cases. So again, the prosecutors will have to go through all these cases, set up those hearings with the judge. And again, these can date back, as Attorney General Dana Nessel mentioned, it could date back decades. Prosecutor Layton says, 20, 30 years. This is what they will be looking at. And this is all because of the Michigan Supreme Court. They made that ruling, a 5-2 opinion, saying that because a person's brain isn't fully developed, this is according to the Michigan Supreme Court, that a 19 or 20-year-old should not be facing a life sentence without the possibility of parole, unless they go through a special hearing, and that hearing is called the Miller hearing. And this all goes back to a 2012 U.S. Supreme Court decision, Miller versus Alabama. We have all of these details on our website, where you can find more about this case law and everything what Prosecutor Layton had to say yesterday when we talked to him, and also Attorney General Dana Nessel. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight for Crime Unveiled with Courtney Bennett. We'll be back next week for another digital desk of Crime Unveiled. Have a good night, everyone.